This is Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko.
Good morning. Good morning, my dear friends. And it is not a typical January morning out there, is it? It's a little bit on the warmer side, although yesterday sure was a lot warmer, and I wish it would stay that way. We've talked about this before, just real quickly before I get into the show, and talking about the effect that the temperature has on germs in the winter. And, I swear not a week goes by that someone in my office doesn't say, boy, I sure wish the temperatures would get cold and stay cold to kill the germs. And you know what, folks? It's simply not true. And they have done extensive studies on this. And when we're talking about things like the flu virus, for instance, especially viruses, but even some bacteria fall into this category, in that it's not the temperatures that we have that really have an effect on that. What really affects the increased incidence of flu and colds and things like that is the fact that people gather in enclosed spaces during winter months when it's cold, with forced air, dry heat flowing through the house, with everybody breathing in the house. And so that's how a lot of these things get started, and that's why we see the flu bug much more prevalent after the holidays, or when people get together. All it takes is one or two people carrying the germs. You may not even have the symptoms of the illness, but just having the germs, and then the chance of spreading that illness is profound. And it happens fast, and it can have effects for weeks afterwards. And so we're seeing a lot of that right now. I've seen an awful lot of patients who have come over the last week, come and gone in the office, and who right after the holidays got sick. And, that's something that seems to happen every year. And there's probably really no real solution to it other than let's try to eat a little healthier, because that affects our immune system. And try to limit our gatherings. I know that's a tough one, because we all like to get together at the holidays, and especially with family. And so, but we have to be careful when we are sick. So we get that out of the way. You are listening to Enjoy Incredible Health, and I am your host, Dr. David Vitko. I'm a chiropractic physician with over 34 years experience in helping folks like you and your friends and loved ones to live a healthier, happier life, I hope, through better diet, suggestions on better diet, and a better lifestyle. So today's a rough day for me, folks. Last week I wasn't here. I apologize for that. I don't always have the ability to let you know ahead of time if I'm not going to be here. It was the cancer thing, this esophageal cancer thing that I have going is an up and down thing, and I get good days and bad days. A lot of bad days lately. Last couple of weeks were tough. I actually suffered through a couple of weeks of pneumonia, if you can imagine that, on top of the cancer pain. And so it's been a rough couple of weeks for me. And hopefully I'm on the upswing here, and I'm not going to sit and whine and complain, but I'm going to do things to try to change the picture. And I pray every day, and I pray for God's guidance in leading me down the right path. I believe that I am on the right path, regardless of the outcome. The right path for me is to do what I'm comfortable with as far as my body goes and my health future goes. And so I'm going to try to do my best to head that in the right direction. And, I've talked to you about this before, and I don't want to spend the whole show on my cancer, but I am going through some pretty rough waters right now. And so I'll let you know kind of what's going on with me, and we'll try to not spend the whole show on it. But if anybody wants to call in, you want to talk about either my cancer, your illness, your health, whatever, the number is 330-729-9977. That's 729-9977. and I'll be happy to take your calls, and we'll talk then. Try to keep it within the subject matter if you don't mind. But so the last couple of weeks were pretty rough. Like I said, I got through some pneumonia. That was a lot of coughing. And this morning, the reason I almost didn't make it in this morning was I didn't think I would be able to stop coughing long enough to do a show. But apparently God has stepped in and decided that I have something of value to say today. So not sure if it's going to come from me or from you calling in. But there must be something of value here, so we'll try to get it out one way or the other. But I had a rough morning this morning, and last couple of weeks were kind of rough, as I said. Pneumonia's no fun. I had all the fun things that go with it, the night sweats, and I've got a friend that's going through that kind of thing right now, too, with another illness. And, boy, I'll tell you, when you can't sleep at night, it's the worst. It is the worst because your body has a hard time catching up. And that's sleep time is your body's rejuvenation time. It's a time when your body heals. Our immune system works best while we're resting. And it's pretty amazing what it can do and accomplish even when we're fighting things like cancer and pneumonia at the same time. But thank God our immune system is built to be a multitasking immune system. It's worked very well for me. So I've talked to you about this in the past, and one of the reasons I have these ups and downs with energy has to do with iron deficiency. And my iron has been low now really for several months at least, if not more, and may actually have been at the root cause of my cancer to begin with, because iron deficiency is known to be a predominant factor in cancer starting, and that has to do with the immune system and weaknesses in our immune system that come from the body's inability to fight things off because it doesn't have the red blood count that it needs, it doesn't have the energy that it needs, and it doesn't have sometimes certain vitamins as well, things like A, D, E, and K, the fat-soluble vitamins, very important, and certainly vitamin D, and mine has been a little bit low as well. And but iron is something that when it's low could actually be at the root, at the beginnings of cancer. And certainly when iron's low, it makes it a lot more difficult to fight the cancer. And this is what I've been up against for several months at least in the time that I've really known and focused on that iron being low. Is I focused on eating the high iron foods, the green leafy vegetables, even the meats. I've done some red meats in an attempt to raise my iron. Nothing that I've done has been able to change the picture for my iron count and my red blood count. Red blood count keeps dropping, and my iron, I've just not been able to get it going. And so that's why I'll get days where I'll go in the office and I'll see a few patients and I'll have to go lay down for a half an hour. And then I might be able to see a couple more patients and then go lay down for a half an hour. And that gets pretty old after a while, and it really starts to drag on you. And it also accounts for the need for, and this is so unusual for me, to need 12 to 14 hours of sleep a night. It's hard to do. It's hard to do comfortably. It's difficult to do that night after night and look forward to. It's funny that, I actually look forward to crawling into bed. And that wasn't me. Normally I would sleep, 4, 5, 6 hours a night, and I would have all the energy I needed to do whatever I needed to do. But this thing's got me up against the wall on this. And so this week we're going to take another track. I've been talking to my good friend, my family doctor, and who's right on board with what I'm doing to fight this cancer in the way that I want to fight it. And we've come to the conclusion that maybe food alone won't do it, and that it might be time to try an iron infusion. And so we're going to do that hopefully this week, and I can maybe start to see some change in my energy levels. And that, in turn, can also make a significant change in the cancer fighting ability that my body has. I need to shore that up and get that working a little harder. I'm still doing all the things that I had been doing, drinking the ozone water, the dry saunas, which I've cut back on the length of time of the dry saunas because I found that, half hour to an hour in a dry sauna would just totally drain me to the point where I was exhausted. And part of that may have to do with the iron as well, and possibly partly to do with the vitamin D being low. So working on both those angles. But I've cut back. I still do the dry sauna 3 times a week, but I do it for 15 to 20 minutes. And I find that refreshes me to some level rather than draining me. And I think that that's going to help in the overall picture. I think that we've talked about this in the past about how higher temperatures kill cancer cells. And it's well known and been proved many times that temperatures in a range of 106 to 111 degrees Fahrenheit readily kill cancer cells when they're directly exposed. And so, to me, it was a no-brainer that heat would be a good thing. But heat can be draining. And I'll tell you that when you do it for an hour, 106 degrees even, which is not that high. The dry sauna I run at 120 to 124 degrees. It's not quite the same as sitting in a bathtub of 106 degree water. I've told you before that I've done 117 degree bath water. That's pretty grueling. That's exhausting as well. 106 degree bath water is very tolerable and very quickly just becomes just lukewarm. And so the battle there is to stay in it and to think that you're getting some kind of value in being in it at 106 degrees, but there is value in that. And so I still will do a couple of times a week. I'll do a hot bath, and I keep it between 106 and 110 degrees basically to balance out that draining effect and to also still get the cancer killing effect. And in some ways, folks, honestly, I feel that I'm getting on top of the cancer thing. Some people would say it's pie in the sky. Some people would say it's wishful thinking. And perhaps so in some ways, but that's good too, because we know that the placebo effect has a very strong effect not only on our overall health, but on our immune system in general, which can help to boost our immune defenses in the body. And so it's good to be positive. And I've told you this before. When you decide on what course of treatment you're going to take for whatever illness it is that you have, you need to be positive about it. If you are wishy-washy, you will get nowhere, and you likely will suffer the consequences of being wishy-washy. It's you have to give it your all. And so that's what I've done with this treatment course that I'm following, the protocol that I'm following, and I've tweaked it along the way. It's not that I don't have doubts here and there, and it's not that I don't ask myself, could you do better? Is there maybe a better way to do this? Maybe you should tweak this. Maybe you should do that. I do that, but I don't second guess myself. I look at what I'm doing, and I take stock in the research that's behind it. And I make sure that I read that from time to time, and I look for other sources of the same types of research in order to support what I'm doing. I also look at the negative side of things. If there is some research out there that says completely contradictory to what I'm trying to find to support what I'm doing, I look at that too, because ignoring the truth is not going to get you anywhere. And so we need to look at the whole picture, and we need to decide, what is a proper course of treatment, and then we need to stick with it. And that's what I've been doing. And so all the things that I've told you that I was going to do to treat my cancer, and all the things that I've been working on I've stayed consistent with it. And I try every day to make sure that I do the things as they are prescribed or as they are known to work. And one of the things is the off-purpose medications. And that becomes a challenge because there are days when you're taking that and you think, geez, is it doing anything? And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know because I haven't done a rescan or anything like that lately. And I do want to do a new scan, a new PET scan, and I do want to get scoped again. But I'm not going to spend that cash because, insurance isn't what it used to be. And with a $10,000 deductible, you have to pick and choose your treatment for what you think is going to be most valuable. So we do have a phone call in, and I'm going to go ahead and take this call because it sounds kind of interesting. So, hi, is this Tony?
Yes. Real quickly, there were 10 of us that had cancer, and we had the opportunity to meet 3 of the country's leading oncologists from UCLA Medical Center, Emory University, and Roswell Cancer Clinic. And my friend who had a pancreatic cancer, she was the longest living surviving pancreatic cancer patient in the United States. She had it 47 months.
Wow.
And this is how the doctor in California found out about her. But one of the things that she was doing, when she died, she did not die from her cancer. She died because she slipped and fell because she was rock climbing and fell and on her head and died from the blow to her head.
Oh, wow.
So the other girls, this doctor come in, and he said exactly what you were saying about being proactive. And one of the things that we have learned, long and short of it, I had a heart issue, and the doctor said, well, you need to either get on pills or lose weight. So I lost 45 pounds. And so you have to be very proactive. But one of the other things, too, that all 3 of these doctors told us, your endorphins in your head have a lot to do with your healthiness. Whether if you're jogging, running, laughing, doing something that's upping your endorphins, it keeps the body happy. It actually builds white blood cells. I think it's the white blood cells that kill off the bad ones.
Yes.
And he said, so he says, and his exact words to us were, one of the things that people have to learn is if they build up their endorphins, he said, they won't bitch, they won't complain, they don't get sick.
Right.
And it really is true. And so one of the things we said to him, so exercising is the big key. He goes, exercising, laughing, running, keep moving.
Right.
And so only 2 of one of them had, out of the 10 of us, had chemo. And Sally was the only one, but when she died, like they said, they participated, the 3 oncologists participated in her autopsy, and they came back and told us that they were so stunned by what they found that her cancer was totally encapsulated in her pancreas, had not metastasized itself anywhere else in the bloodstream, and was so minutely in her bloodstream, he said, you would have thought after 47 months she had just been diagnosed with it.
Wow. Hey, Tony, that there has to be some kind of record of this information out there.
There is. A doctor from UCLA Medical Center wrote a journal on her.
Okay.
And it is, and I go around talking to people, and I know it sounds really awful because, I'm healthy. Thank you, Jesus. I had it twice. And, it's 9:30 in the morning, and I'm getting ready to go to a meeting where I'm going to be running for the next hour.
God bless you. Yeah, that's fantastic. So this, the UCLA, the doctor, what do you know his name?
Off the top of my head, I've got it written down at home.
Okay.
I can call you and let you know what it is.
Yeah, if you can do that, that would be great. I would love to pass that information on. I have a book called Radical Remission, which is about surviving cancer against the odds by a PhD. And really interesting stuff, and people have great stories. And it seems to be that the root of the reason that people survive is exactly what you're talking about. Is number one, being upbeat. Having a positive attitude, that does stimulate endorphins, no doubt about it, which stimulates your immune system, which helps your body to have a stronger immune function. No question. And so,
the other thing these doctors were talking about was, believe it or not, one of the things that I had to watch because of heart issues at the beginning was I couldn't eat a lot of greens because they were telling you that it has something to do. You can't eat a lot of greens on Coumadin or something like that.
Right. Yeah, it interferes with clotting. Yeah.
Right. So once we all got past different things of issues, we were finding out asparagus really helped us. So I know it sounds awful, but it does.
Yeah, well, a lot of greens are very helpful. And, there's different situations. So, like for my esophageal cancer, I can't eat much in a way. I'm just now getting to the point where I'm able to tolerate roughage. And so things like salads and green, which I lived on before. So, but everybody can adapt. People find
sometimes
you come up with...
I'm sorry, sometimes with esophageal cancer, that would be telling me, I mean, not that I'm a doctor or anything, but it would be telling me that I'd be real careful about the stuff I'm breathing in and where I'm at.
Yeah, well...
Because I know one of the things that we did do was we went to Branson, Missouri, and Branson, Missouri has a 1% cancer rate. And I found that to be so interesting because it has something to do with they don't have the bugs because of this, whatever it is that's permeated out of these trees.
Oh, I thought maybe it's all the great country music out there. I don't know.
I don't know, but it was really fascinating. And I mean, cancer is, I tell people all the time, if you find out you have any form of cancer, let the fear in, scream, cry, do what you got to do. Okay, now get on with your life.
Right,
it's like
that's
anything
exactly.
Other tragedy in your life. Don't treat it any differently than a sore in your mouth, because then when you start worrying about it and festering about it, it gets worse.
Great advice. That is just great advice.
All right, well, thank you. You have a good day. God bless.
If you can get me that doctor's name, I would greatly appreciate
it.
So, all right, thanks so much.
I'll get you all three of them.
Okay,
right.
Appreciate it, Tony. Have a great day.
Bye.
So there we go. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I love to hear. I've got her on hold. Are you going to get her? Okay, Viking's going to get her number. So when I hear people talk like this, there are times when I think this is all in my imagination. I've read too many positive things, or I've read, some things that have, led me down this path, but maybe none of it's true. But there are people out there that reinforce this line of thought over and over and over. And maybe they read the same thing too, but look at this lady in her life's experience. And in her real life experience with cancer and with other people with cancer who figured out that you can participate in beating that cancer. And that's a big part of what I'm doing for mine, is just getting behind it and doing the things that I think are going to, number one, eliminate the cancer, and number two, make my body healthier overall. Sounds a little difficult to do, considering my lifestyle before was really good. But, I found some places I could definitely improve on my lifestyle. And the iron is one of the things that I think has been a major issue for me for a long time. And I maybe didn't even know it. And I think it came to light partly with this cancer diagnosis. So, but anybody who has stories similar to this that have validity, that I don't care if it's a friend, a family member, somebody that who has been, through a tough time and yet they survived, and whatever they did, hey, call in with that. We'll be coming up on a break here for a couple of minutes. And then after the break, call in 330-729-9977. That's 330-729-9977. This is Dr. David Vitko, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Hang in there just for a few minutes, folks.
Amazon.com.
Welcome back to Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko.
All righty, we're coming back now. And so, when we talk about natural approaches to health, and even something is crazy sounding, because for a lot of people it is crazy sounding, as like what I'm doing in treating my cancer, through a natural approach, or at least not going the conventional route, and choosing not to go that route. Look, folks, what they have in the conventional route sometimes is fantastic. I know that for some illnesses, some diseases, some cancers, they have great outcomes. For mine, the outcomes were not great. They didn't even when they tried to, what's the old saying about putting lipstick on a pig? It's still a pig. So the outcomes were potentially not good. And so I thought, I looked at the best outcomes I could find with the least amount of damage from the treatment. And so that's what I've opted for. So, but the first thing you want to ask yourself whenever you have some sort of a disease or some illness that you're treating is, what's your plan? You need to have a plan. You can't just be willy-nilly, as I like to say, about it. You can't just do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. You should have an overall plan. And when you have an overall plan, it gives you a much better chance of success. And especially when you have a good overall plan that's been well researched and you stick with it and you don't back down. So persistence is key. And we just heard Tony call in, and she was talking about these people that all had these terminal illnesses, terminal cancers that survived for many, many years, and had doctors baffled. And I talked about this book, Radical Remissions by Kelly Turner, Ph.D., same thing. And I hope to find more cases of people out there like this, because I know there's a lot more to cancer, for instance, and many other diseases than what meets the eye. For most people, when they hear, oh, you have cancer, oh, well, you have cancer, that's it. It's over. It's, done deal. Hey, there's a battle to be waged, and there is success out there everywhere. You just have to look for it, because it's not promoted. There's not a lot of profit in promoting people that have survived cancer through natural means. There's just not unless you're selling some kind of like hemp oil or CBD oil, which is all the rage now. By the way, I don't know if I talked to you last time. A couple of weeks ago, I tried hemp oil for my pain. I thought perhaps I could decrease the amount of pain medication I use, and it had little or no effect on my pain, to be honest with you. So I gave up on that. But and truly, what I think most people find with the hemp products is that THC is the important ingredient when it really comes to pain, and it's the amount of THC that's in it that makes the difference in for most people probably, and for that you need a medical marijuana prescription, and that's probably the way you want to go on that. For me, fortunately, I've been able to manage my pain pretty much with a couple of things, ibuprofen and Tylenol in combination, and I've been using a little bit of hydrocodone in combination with Tylenol, which hydrocodone normally has some Tylenol in, or acetaminophen in it, or in with it. But that's what I've been using, and I found that it mostly gets me pretty well through the day. And my pain recently has decreased and diminished a fair amount because of, I think, some of the things that I'm doing. And certainly the bout that I just put up with pneumonia was pretty rough, because there was a lot of coughing, and that itself caused a lot of pain. And now that that's mostly gone, 90%, 95% gone, the pain that I've had is pretty much manageable with simple over-the-counter medications. And so I'm trying to stay that route. And in many ways, like I said, I really feel like my cancer has improved. I swallow better. I've been able to eat whole foods again, which I went through a period of time when I was not able to, and I am able to do that again, and that's helped tremendously. I did lose quite a bit of weight again with the pneumonia bout of pneumonia that I had. I actually lost another 10 pounds, but I've put a couple of that back on. I don't worry quite so much about the weight like they do if you're taking chemo or if you're taking radiation. I guess the weight is much more critical in that situation because you're absolutely going to have nausea and not be able to eat or digest or assimilate foods when you're taking those treatments, most often because they are so harsh in many cases. And so I am still able to eat from a pretty good variety of foods that are soft enough not to irritate things. And I apparently seem to have stopped bleeding internally. The signs that I had the dark stool, which is a common cause of bleeding in the esophagus, that's gone. And if I can get this iron thing up now, if we get the iron infusion and I can get that iron increased in my blood and get my red blood count up, I think I can get on top of this whole thing. So enough of all that, and I'll keep you updated on that, say in the next week or two. It's probably going to take a couple of weeks and maybe a couple of infusions to get the iron to the point where it needs to be. I've done a lot of reading on that, and I found that even for some people who have to go the infusion route, that it takes time for the body to get on top of the effort of rebuilding the iron stores in the bone marrow, which is where the red blood cells are made. And so it can take a little bit of time. So a couple of weeks is not out of the question. And if I can, hopefully we get that infusion done this week, the first one, if I'm going to do more than one, and to kind of get started down that path and maybe get some healing going. That's what I'm looking for. And I always look for positive signs, just like Tony was talking about. Being positive is a double-edged sword. You can be positive and just think positive thoughts all the time. I'm not that kind of person. I can't say, that, I'm just going to think positive and that's going to make things work well. I have to see some kind of positive change and that I can hang my hat on and then really use that to motivate myself to move in a forward direction. And that promotes more positive thoughts. And so, that's me. And I think a lot of people are that way because I know, for instance, for myself, 100 good things could happen symptom-wise, and I would feel pretty good about it. One bad thing happens, and the world's coming to an end. And I know a lot of people who think that way. And it's easy to get dragged down into that negative gutter. And so when you do find something positive that is happening, it's very important to write it down and note it and look at it, numerous times a day and think about it. And this is for people like me and Christians who, pray every day and who have faith in God and who know that through Christ all things are possible. And if we put our faith in that and we can lock our faith in and don't waver, you have a much better chance of becoming healthy again. And that partly plays into this whole endorphin thing and boosting your immune system and giving your body a reason to be happy. Tony talked about, we'll find ways to be happy. It is true. And there was a book, I think Norman Cousins wrote a book not long ago. Is it Anatomy of an Illness? I think it was. And that book talked about using, watching funny movies, to make sure that you laugh a lot and, find reasons to be happy. And there are a lot of reasons to be happy. Everybody maybe has their own. But when you do that, you not only boost the endorphins, but there are many other chemicals in the body that are boosted that are positive for us. And the immune system is definitely boosted. And when you boost your immune system, it's almost like you're putting your healing into overdrive, because now your immune cells, those white blood cells that Tony mentioned, those white blood cells can go after the cancerous cells, or they can go after the bacteria or the virus or whatever it is that's causing the illness and make a change in that. And so we try to be as positive as you can and stimulate all those positive things to happen in your body at one time. Now, am I saying just, be goofy and go off the deep end and, just try to be happy all the time? I can't do that. I don't know anybody that can do that. And it's probably not going to help. It has to be realistic. You need to be realistic about being happy. So we got another phone call here. Let's talk to Bill and Sharon. Hi, Bill. It's Dr. Vitko. How can I help you?
Good morning, Dr. Vitko. That person that called in is very much accurate. I used to call it a positive mental attitude, PMA. And there's an old saying, the laughter is the best medicine.
That's right.
I'm wondering if you have read much about hydrogen peroxide. I know somebody used to mix 1 part hydrogen peroxide and 4 parts water and drink it. Now, that would probably be hard on your throat. But, you mentioned ozone therapy.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, they say you should do food grade, if you've done any reading on that.
Right. Yeah, I have, and I'm not into the hydrogen peroxide. There probably is some validity to that. I've chosen the treatments that I'm sticking with, and the ozone production is something I've got the capability to do. I think, in my opinion, is a little more powerful approach than the hydrogen peroxide. But I do several things at one time too. It's not I don't just lean on one thing, and I don't think anybody should really do that necessarily, but I do believe there probably is some value in the hydrogen peroxide. If you read up on it, there is good science behind that as well. Not that I would stake my whole bag of marbles on that deal, but, you want to try to find as many good positive things as you can, and if that's something that works for you, that's a good thing. Have you had an experience with cancer or someone with cancer or anything like that, Bill?
Oh, yes. Both my parents passed away from it, and my brother, I believe, has passed away. He was fighting cancer a while back. Right. And I'm probably a high candidate for it because all the stress of my neighborhood. I live in a high-crime district. It's very difficult to get rest.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, that's tough.
Well,
if there are things in life that we can change, and there's things in life that or that we can't change, and we need to go after the things that we can change, and look for ways to do that. Is the best advice I can give you on that for sure. But I know it's hard. I know people, you get into a certain lifestyle, or you live in a certain area or something. Sometimes it's hard. Change is tough, right? I mean, change is tough in a lot of ways. Yeah. So, but
keeping a good attitude is the healthiest way to go, though.
You bet. I appreciate your call, Bill. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good week.
You too. So, the whole positive mental attitude thing. Yes. I mean, we have to work at that. But the thing that gives you that positive mental attitude, I think, is having a plan. So, for like Bill, he lives in a neighborhood that he thinks is not such a good neighborhood. That'd be like number one thing in my mind, is to find a way to get out of there and to change. If there's something in your life you don't like, folks, you need to think about trying to change it. I've gone through major changes in my life several times that have been hard changes. But when those are the overriding issue in your life, you need to find a way to make that change. And then everything looks better to you. Just make sure it's very important to you first. And maybe there's a better way to go about it or whatever, but find that way to change it. And and it reminds me, I always talk about, if there's an opportunity for us to help other people. To me, this is the reason we are here on this earth. And, the funny thing is, when you get something like cancer, you do tend to do a lot of soul searching. and and I've spent a lot of time in a sauna or in a tub, by myself and just thinking. And I find that the things that make me happiest in life are when I can do things that help other people. And it might be something small, like when I go through a drive-thru and get a cup of coffee and just, give the person a smile and thank you and tell them, have a nice day. I try to tell everybody to have a nice day, because who knows what influence those kind words might have on that person's life. And then from them to the next person that they meet, and to the next person they meet. I don't want to sound like, some goody two-shoes do-gooder guy that goes out and tries to do this all. It's not the only thing I do in my life. I mean, obviously, I have a lot of things I'm really into, science and, and trying to beat cancer and all, but that's such a small thing. It takes such a small effort to be nice to people and just to say thank you. Have a great day. Yeah. I got Viking in here. He's jumping up and down, cheering. And you can get Viking doing that. You're doing something right. But it is true. It takes so little effort, less effort to be nice than it does to be grumpy. So, this is Dr. Vitko. You're listening to Enjoy Incredible Health, and I'm going to be back to close up shop here in just a few minutes. Make sure you stick around, folks.
Today.
Welcome back to Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko.
All right. So let's go back to this positive thing and being nice and offering kind words to people and things like that. Just for another minute or two, bear with me, folks. And you shouldn't do it for this reason, but this should certainly enter into the equation, and that is that when you put out good energy, and here I know that I'm going to have people here from the 60s going, yeah. Look, when you put out good energy, you put out a good vibe, when people see positive things or hear positive things from you, it brightens their life and it changes their life, and that progresses down to the next person and to the next person. And maybe there's a curmudgeon in there somewhere and it'll skip one, but it'll come back, and then before you know it, a lot more people are in a much better mood, and maybe things are going better. And you know what? Some of that is going to come back to help you in some way, shape, or form. And again, not that that's the purpose you're doing it, because if that's why you're doing it, don't do it, because it's not going to work. And as a matter of fact, I think there's unwritten laws in the universe that say, you need to be altruistic in this whole thing. You need to be someone who helps other people because they love other people and because they want other people to have, a good life. And, it's like the idea of wealth, when there's, if some people make more money, it doesn't mean there's going to be less money to be made by other people. It's the same thing with this. When you give good thoughts and when you, give other people that good feeling and you compliment them or you're nice to them, it's only going to multiply and it's only going to get larger on its own. It's like the economy. Same thing. Things will multiply. Things get larger on their own. They propel themselves. But you have to do things in for the right reason. And I think that we are here on Earth in some way, shape, or form, each of us as some sort of mentor or some sort of guiding spirit for other people. And without getting deep into this, because I don't get into this stuff like that. These are things that enter my mind all the time. And I think that what I do in my life and even my opportunity here to help other people understand a little more about health it's my purpose for being here on Earth. We all have that purpose, and we should all wake up with that purpose in mind every day. If not, it should be something that we go to quickly to think about our purpose for that day, because what you do that day is going to come back to you in some way, shape, or form. And it's either going to help yourself and help other people, or it's going to gummy up the works. So you've been listening to Enjoy Incredible Health with Dr. David Vitko. Next week, I hope to have some good news on my energy levels and my iron levels in my blood. And I want you all to be much healthier yourselves. Thanks for listening, folks. Have a great day.